Leeds United have drawn with Bristol City, and whilst from the outside that might look like it's either the biggest stumble in the world or fine enough, you've got a point against a team that's not lost at home, either way, it has started that inevitable conversation, the one that always comes around about footballing style and shape and structure and what it means to be a successful football manager. But this entire conversation, I believe, is based on some fairly significant misunderstandings. The conversation being around Daniel Farke and the way that he plays and all that sort of stuff. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how we don't properly understand the issues with Daniel Farke's Leeds United. And I think that is weirdly poisoning the well of conversation that we have as a fan base. And I think it's something that we need to be able to talk about in a little bit more detail. So in this video, I'm going to talk through what people think the issues are, what the issues actually are, have a little bit of a chat about philosophy, and I'm going to take a quick dip into some metaphors, talk about what the end game needs to be for Leeds United at the minute, and how we're sort of doing at the moment, and then we'll talk about what you think. And what I think is that you should really subscribe to the channel, so if you're not yet, do that. Be really appreciated. Anyway, diving headfirst into it, we need to talk about what people think the issues are. And these are widespread and consistent, and there's a few. The first one being there's too much sideways, backwards passing stuff, and it's fairly slow and it's meandering and it doesn't get us to places that we need to be. And for me, this is a discussion on football style, and that's fine. You can have those discussions. You can prefer a more active, upbeat, always going style of play. That's okay. Completely fine. But it's not the only issue that people talk about. People also discuss the fact that there will be underperformances in various matches, such as the Bristol City match. I'm recording this video as I stream right now, and we've just had a fairly in-depth conversation about, is it okay to underperform in a few matches? And to be honest, I think probably, yeah. But at the same time, I think there's a little bit more conversation to be had about managerial style and goals and all that sort of stuff. And people also think that the issue is that Daniel Farke is leaning a little bit too hard on talented footballers. And that's a conversation to be had. We do have a very strong squad. I'm completely aware of this. Don't get me wrong. Last year we had Rutter, Somerville Gray, itchy nose. This season we've got Nonto, we've got Tanaka, all those sort of players. And that's also worthy of discussion. But that's not what I think the issues actually are. See, when you look into the various problems that we have at Leeds United at the moment, you've got to see the points, or at least the games where we have dropped points this season so far. So running through it, we've got Portsmouth. Admittedly, that one fell off the wagon a little bit. Everything went very wrong, very simultaneously, including Jayden Bogle giving away a penalty. We've got West Brom, which was a match where we very much played it safe and tried not to lose. We've got Burnley, which freak slip-up. We have to be honest, from Manor Solomon, Jayden Bogle not getting across quickly enough and not committing one way or the other caused problems. Meslier unsighted. We concede a goal. We don't get back into that game. Norwich City concede a penalty. That happens. Sunderland, Meslier completely misjudges the ball, goes past him. Not good enough. We drop more points. And then Bristol City. Those are the games where we've dropped points here. And looking at it from my perspective, the bulk of points that we've lost are down to personal errors. So the Norwich City penalty is Rodon trying to get into a challenge that he absolutely has no right to win. He doesn't necessarily win, and he doesn't win that. And it's very rare that you would, like balance of probability, which sucks, but it's the reality of the situation, I think. Then looking a little bit further into the details, Sunderland is the Meslier issue. That's another 2 points dropped. So that's 4 points right there. Right now, we're 5 points off the top of the table. Talk about the Burnley one. Anna Solomon slips. If Burnley aren't able to sit in, we might win that, but you know what? I'm going to take that as 1 point. There's your 5 points that would have us top of the table. And it's individual errors. Same for the Portsmouth one. Bogle, stupid penalty given away. Meslier doesn't do well enough with that save. And yeah, outside of that, we've dropped points to Bristol City. We've dropped points to West Brom. But a lot of those issues that I've mentioned there come from individual problems. So to address the first point that people are having on he's reliant too much on good players, At the end of the day, his job is to put a system in place that players play within. And if people make errors within that, you can't blame him. If someone kicks someone in the penalty box, it's quite hard to call for Farke's head because he's not the brain on the end of that leg, which is tough, and it muddies the conversation a little bit, we have to admit that. But then we have to have a little bit of a chat about philosophy, because having tagged a comment that was flying through my comments just now, as mentioned, currently streaming as I'm doing this, there's a lot of statements that he's too negative and cautious. Sit on leads, settle for draws. And this is where I've talked a little bit about philosophy. But this isn't boring like uni philosophy or anything like that. This is actual footballing philosophy. It's a case of, if you're in a situation where you are drawing and you can push for a win, the fundamental difference between Daniel Farke and Marcelo Bielsa is that Daniel Farke is a lot of the time happy enough to take the point. West Brom away at the Hawthorns. You've just lost Jorginho Rutter. Team is slightly in disarray. You are having to play in a structure you're not used to, and you've barely had time to train this 11 together because you're thinking that you've got Georgie until 3 days before. You take a point. Because if you don't, you open yourself up, you allow chances, and the other side can win. Match against Bristol City. Yeah, we spent a lot of that match pushing for the victory. And we had plenty of chances that were missed. Mateo Joseph missing a chance, Dan James missing a chance, Nonto missing a chance. Bogle at the end of the first half, I genuinely thought I'd put it in, but he hadn't. And once it hits the point of, okay, it's really late in this game, if we overstretch ourselves, we can leave those gaps and Bristol City can find themselves a winner, you take the point. And that's the philosophical difference between the two. And I'm really bad at explaining things without using metaphors. So let's talk a little bit of metaphor. And the way that I've put this is Daniel Farke keeps saying how much he loves chilling on the sofa with coffee and cake. Living in a nice house, I assume. And those walls give you a little bit of security. It's not exciting. We can agree with this, right? He's sat there in front of Strictly, having a coffee, having a bit of cake, having a chill. Counterpoint. The specific phrasing, by the way, that I put for this point when I was discussing this video idea with someone else was Daniel Farke lives in a nice house, followed by Sean Healy gets eaten by bears. Because the alternative is bare knuckle brawler bear. Bear or bear? Yeah, it's fine. Where, yeah, sure, this is a massive extreme. I accept this. But it's a take it to them every single time, and you keep on pushing and you keep on trying to cause problems for the other team, and eventually you might score a goal, but you don't know what you're fighting against a lot of the time. And you can get hit hard on the counter, and that's how a lot of teams will potentially beat us this season, because that's how this league works. You on the counter. That's what happens when you're a team that's dominating a league. And yeah, a lot of the time you might get a winner. That would be wonderful. But what happens on the occasion that you don't? What happens when you go all out and then all of a sudden you start leaking goals? At that point, you need to go more all out, and you need to desperately try and fight to score the goals yourself to get back into the game, but that's not necessarily doable, and that opens yourself up even more at the back, and that causes problems. Causes big problems. That's how you lose games of football. And yeah, admittedly, not fantastic. And that's where I think the fundamental difference is between Farke's football, which is the safety and the knowledge that, okay, sure, we're not winning this match, but we're on the road against a team that hasn't lost here yet, and we've gotten ourselves a point. It will do. Against desperately pushing for a point, because not a point, desperately pushing for 3 points. Because at the end of the day, if you drop points in those matches, you look a bit silly, right? We can accept this. And a further sort of version of this metaphor that I decided to take on was, do you have pets? Because I thought about sort of the risk versus low risk stuff. And I thought about how my own like pet rabbit got nearly rabbit napped relatively recently. Almost like taken out of the garage and breakout and all that sort of stuff. Now, that is real risky and real sort of exciting and danger. But from her perspective, that could have gone really wrong. I could have lost one of my pets that day, and that would have felt shit. So, for the period after that, we thought, right, okay, cool. I think we keep Nora in somewhere inside the house rather than the garage for a bit whilst we secure things up. And that's the same ideology, just transferred from sports to life. Because, yeah, a rabbit might love it running around in a field, but then a fox shows up. And as we learned last season, foxes are really good at stopping you from getting promoted. Because looking at things in a wider context, because let's get back to sport rather than pet rabbits being comfy inside versus excited in a field. What is the end game here? And the end game is get promoted. And there are just different routes to it. There is Marcelo Bielsa's take everyone as hard as you can and heavy metal football and make sure that you are winning those games versus if it doesn't look like the win is on, secure that point. And yeah, you can probe forwards and you can try and cause problems for the other team. But don't lose that point. And they're both completely valid ideologies. I loved the Bielsa era so much. Genuinely, it's what got me back into loving football and this stupid sport. But at the same time, this is effective. And effective isn't exciting. Effective isn't always the most interesting, but it works. And if you look at how we're doing, and if you compare us to that Bielsa year where we got up and everyone was really excited and loved the football, compared to 12 matches in to that season, we're 12 matches in right now, to be clear. With a goal difference of 11, we've got 23 points. That same season, we weren't top of the table after 12. We had 23 points. We had a goal difference of 9, and we scored fewer. So whilst the more exciting stuff is brilliant, fantastic, wonderful, you need to remember that at the end of the day, Daniel Farke has evolved from what we were dealing with last season. The matches where we lost most significantly last time out, such as the Southampton match, none of those Southampton games we had actual control of the midfield. The middle of the park was theirs for a lot of the time. So, tactical transition, secure the midfield, make sure we can't lose the match, and then let the attackers do their thing. And sometimes they will make mistakes. That happens. It's football. They are people. A hell of a lot of the time, we're going to win those games. At worst, we're going to draw. And we're going to get enough points to go up. And I very genuinely believe that. But at the end of the day, that is just what I think. So I kind of want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about this entire thing, what you think the actual problem at Leeds is right now, because I'll be honest, I don't think we necessarily have one. We just need to stop making the odd we need to stop making the odd mistake. And then we'll be okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, become a channel member if you like. This video itself is coming out something like 18 hours early-ish for members or something wild like that. It's great. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you later.